The theme this month is I'm prosperous. And last week I talked about I'm prosperous in thought. We talked about quotes from people like Napoleon Hill, who said, thoughts are things. Not the first or the only one to say that. He said, whatever the mind of humankind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And you have absolute control over but one thing, and that's your thoughts. Your mind, he said, is your spiritual estate. In fact, in our pursuit of this philosophy, the science of mind, we talk a lot about thoughts and thinking. And that's a good thing, because, of course, we're always thinking. Even when we're not paying attention to our thoughts, sometimes, or even often, or my point being that our ability to think constantly can sometimes be a negative influence when we're not paying attention to those thoughts. So today's topic is, I am prosperous in word, or words. I'm going to talk about how we verbalize our thoughts, how we use words to describe what we're thinking, consciously or unconsciously. I'm sure some of you occasionally think that I sound like a crotchety old English school teacher, because in conversation I will call to your attention a word that you're using, and sometimes offer a different word in its place, or ask you to pick a different word. And I'm not really trying to be a nag, I promise you that. In fact, sometimes in conversation, you'll just see my facial expression change, and you'll catch it yourself. And then pick a better word, a more positive word, a word of truth for yourself. Because just as thoughts are things, so are words. Because words are the action of outwardly expressing our thoughts. In our language, in the English language, we have a plethora of words to choose from to outwardly express our thoughts. In fact, the dictionary is one of the largest and heaviest books in our home libraries. If you still have a home library, that's not on your iPhone or your iPad, but actually something you can pick up and touch. Yet, have you noticed how most people have a selected number of words that they use constantly? They seldom choose to expand their vocabulary, to bring greater variety or greater expression and meaning to their conversations. It's kind of like we've all heard the saying, we have some 75,000 thoughts a day. Actually, we have 3 thoughts, each of them 25,000 times a day. And we're a lot like that with our words. We fall into patterns of favorite words, words that quickly come to mind, words that have something in our past experience, maybe even subconsciously, that are buttons for us to express ourselves. So, it's an interesting observation. And what does it have to do with being prosperous, you might wonder? Well, let me tell you, my dear friends, it has everything to do with being prosperous. Let me give you an example. A saying we often hear. I want to have more money in my life so I can ... I need to find a new job so I can ... I wish I could buy a car outright so I didn't have to make car payments ... I don't think I'll ever find the right ... and on that could go, except I'm already bored with it, and I imagine you are too. Want, need, wish, don't. And see, if that's what we're saying, it's because that's what we're thinking. That's, that can just really tick you off sometimes, can't it? If that's what I'm saying, that's what I'm thinking. And yet, that's exactly what it is. That's where it comes from. So, as you can see, I came prepared this morning. First, I want to talk about this book, written by Maria Nemeth. It's called The Energy of Money. And we find this quote: "The well-lived life is a conscious life. When we're conscious, we're aware of everything, living fully." And that includes what we are saying as a result of what we're thinking. So that's a really good thing to be aware of, that as I hear my words, I realize that they are coming out of that magnificent wellspring of thoughts that I have. Oh, and I should mention, the tagline to this title, The Energy of Money, is a spiritual guide to financial and personal fulfillment. So in reading this book, if you're not interested in money, or you already have so much you don't want anymore, you can substitute for the word money the energy of love, the energy of creativity, the energy of health. Because the operative word here is energy. See how that works. Thought into form. Abundance, prosperity, opulence, wealth, affluence, substance. It's all energy. Keep these for a minute. So now let's put those words into use. Abundance, prosperity, opulence, health, wealth, both. Affluence, substance. Life is abundant. It's always available for me to use. Prosperity exists in every area of my life. The sea, the sun, the mountains, the trees, the flowers, the sand, the opulence of this land we call Hawaii Island. The wealth of knowledge available to me guides me to growing my consciousness. The universe is affluent in its circulation of positive energy. And the last one for the moment, the universe ceaselessly creates and expands life with the substance of divine energy. Feel-good words and feel-good definitions and a much more positive acceptance within us. So now let's go back to those words that cause me to flinch when I hear them. Want, need, wish, don't. And we can add to that if you want to, hope, will. Only so that we can now be fully conscious of our use of these words and change them when we hear ourselves using them. Change them to power words instead. I am, I choose, I accept, I demonstrate, I deserve. I deserve. So I have a lot of books in my library. Most of you know that because you have to walk by my bookshelves now to come through the front door. What a coincidence that they're there. I probably have more books on prosperity than any other single thing, with the exception of what Ernest Holmes wrote. And although I'm not going to talk about all of them today, I'm going to talk about them. One of them is You Were Born Rich. Now, that might sound vaguely familiar to you if you have any working knowledge of Ralph Waldo Emerson. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "We were born to be rich, and we become rich through the use of our faculties." And then he goes on to explain that as we open up to these infinite possibilities, the richness of our lives expands. So when we talk about rich, we are not limited to money, but rather to all that goes in to providing us with prosperity in our lives, and that's in every area of our lives. One of my favorite books, and some of you may have already read this, it's called "The Trick to Money is Having Some." It's written by Stuart Wilde, who is as wild as that title sounds. And he is also a wonderful writer and a deep thinker. And his point there in the book is that what we think about comes about. What we attract to us unfolds. That when our intention is to increase our income or our ongoing income, that putting our attention on it and determining not only how we shall obtain it, but how we shall steward it. To be in possession of something fine and wonderful. Let's say, for example, a piece of jewelry that's been in the family for a long time, and it comes to us. Our generation now is shepherding that, and so we steward that. We care for it. We care about it. Not only because it's a lovely gem, but because it has history. And it has emotional value. It has a lot more than just the stone, which in and of itself is just a stone. It may be an expensive stone or an inexpensive stone, but it's a stone. And the same is true with money. You've heard the saying that money is the root of all evil, and actually the quote is, "The love of money is the root of all evil." When we love that dirty piece of paper beyond its actual value, which if you just take the paper itself and what it costs to produce that one bill is not very much. But it has a symbol that says it's worth more. In some civilizations, that symbol would be 1 bean or 5 beans or 20 peanuts. In ours, it's that piece of paper with stuff written on it and pictures on it. And if you are from Canada or have lived in Canada, you know that it has lots of color as well. So the value is not in the piece of paper. The value is in how we use it and how we steward it as we're using it. So here's another book that I want to talk to you about. And it has an unusual, I guess I should show you the front, shouldn't I? It has an unusual title. The title is Soul Currency. This book is written by Reverend Ernie Chu, who is a Science of Mind minister in Florida. And the tagline on this is, "Investing your inner wealth for fulfillment and abundance." Ernie's book got rave reviews from people like Deepak Chopra, Joan Houston, Mark Victor Hansen, John Gray. And here's what Jean Houston had to say about it. "This is a unique and vital work that heals while it harvests the spiritual reality of currency. This book gives us a magnificent perspective on the wealth of the soul and an entirely new way of looking at and achieving abundance. Those are powerful words, and they are also from a powerful lady. If you know about Jean Houston, and if you don't, you might want to go online and Google her, and that's Houston, Houston. I haven't read Ernie's words for a while, and as I previewed it for this talk, I moved to expand it into a group of talks. There's just so much here to share. Unless, of course, you all decide to read it, and then we'll do it as a book review. But it's different because it's recognizing prosperity and abundance and the material possession of the exchange in our culture, which we call money, and which in other cultures may be called something different and have much different value. I saw a woman on Jeopardy the other day who is the collector of foreign forms of exchange, and she had a bill from a country, a former country on the African continent, and it was noted as $3 trillion on the face of it. $3 trillion, one bill. And Alex Trebek said to her, "What do you suppose that's worth now?" And she said, "Not the paper it's written on." So money can change. Value, now that's a different thing. But recognizing that this is a piece of paper, it's the value I give it, it's the value others give it, that is not where my wealth lies. That is not my riches. That is a medium of exchange. My riches are the core of me that exchanges value for value. So when the core of me has values and expresses values, then abundance in my life is almost a given. It unfolds by means of my values. So going on with the crux of Ernie's story here in Soul Currency, there's an infinite flow of harmony and creation throughout the universe. And that is our inner treasure. Each of us has the means within us to dissipate fear and false beliefs through the use of this inner treasure, core. Each of us has the means within us to enhance the direct connection we have with God, with Spirit, with divine intelligence. To attract and to accept good and abundance into our lives. See, there's that word acceptance again. To accept. I am worthy of this. To accept it in the form of money, as well as other things, people, and ideas that we treasure. Prosperity and abundance is a spiritual principle. And soul currency is not only a material expression of them, it's an expression of our soul, or our essence, that core of our very being. So I'll be talking some more about prosperity this month as a principle which shows up in every area of our lives, including but not limited to our bank accounts and our portfolios. Because the ongoing truth is, it's done unto us as we believe. Therefore, when we think thoughts of prosperity and success, when we speak positive words regarding our prosperity and success, only prosperity and abundance can follow. In our thoughts, in our words, in our deeds, and in our daily living. So next week, we'll talk about prosperity in our daily living. And so it is.